Right, okay, welcome back. So today we've got the 2025 National 5 English paper. Going to do bits and pieces from it. We're not going to go through every single question, but I'm going to make sure to keep using the right lines to make sure that you understand everything that's going on in the paper. So we'll have a look at RUE first. With RUE we get 1 hour. So you can see that there, it says this was on the 6th of May 2025, so this was 9 till 10 AM, an hour. 30 marks, but yeah, let's go ahead and have a look at this. So this one was about Taylor Swift. What you want to do first when you get a paper, loads and loads and loads of teachers always said to me, read it first, read it. Bear in mind, you've only got an hour. You want to use it as wisely as possible. So I would actually, pardon me, go ahead and take a look at the questions first and see what they're trying to say and go bit by bit. So question 1 is saying, look at lines 1 to 7, using your own words as far as possible, explain what impression we are given of the writer. You should make 2 key points in your answer. So we are then going to go back up and then look at lines 1 to 7. So this part in here, and then we read through to figure out what we need to switch into our own words, and so on. Question 2, we go to lines 8 to 12, question 3, line 13, and so on, all the way down. So that's how we do it. So what do you need to know then to go and get an A in English? In the RUE section, that is. Well, you need to know the question types. So you're going to fail if you don't know the question types. That's just a fact. So to narrow it down, to make it as easy and as understandable as possible for you, we're going to have a look through each question type that might come up. So own words, if I can write, own words. So the first one we're going to look through, obviously, own words. What own words is you're basically going to write in your own words the points that it's asking you. It's basically in your own words, it's self-explanatory. You're writing it in your own words. So you can't have any words from the text that isn't your own words, if that makes sense. So an example of this question 1, explain what impression we are given of the writer. If we go up to lines 1 to 7 in here, just to quickly look, feeling that I'm not as good as the writers I admire. So he's beating himself up about his work. That's all he's doing. He doesn't think that he's better than any other writers. If you take that out of the context and you put it into, a football setting, you don't feel like you're as good as the other players in your team. The exact same thing. So, that this guy, and he's talking about Taylor Swift here, is beating himself up and critiquing himself loads, essentially. This guy's his biggest critic. So that's all in your own words. I've not taken one single word from the text here. So essentially that's what you're trying to do. You can't take any words from the text and just put them in your answer. They have to everything be in your own words. So to summarise, everything must be in your own words. Secondly, with own words, everything has to be bullet pointed. You can't write a paragraph. It has to be bullet pointed. Right, this is point 1, this is point 2, this is point 3, so on. So everything in bullet points. Next one. Right. Next question we've got word choice. So what word choice is essentially you're looking at 1 to 2 words and trying to analyse what that means. So if you took the word red, for example, you're going to quote, I'm going to write example here. So an example would be if you had the word red in a text, you would quote the word red. Your next point, again similar to the own words where you're doing boom, 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 boom. It's not bullet pointed, but it's a nice order that you can see what the answers are. I'm going to ask about the connotations. This has connotations of ... So that connotation, what a connotation is almost like a synonym in the sense of it's a different meaning for that same word. So it's how you interpret it. Red could mean blood. Red could mean evil. Red could have synonyms of or connotations, of the devil. Or it could be, love, etc. So, seeing what has context in your text, this has connotations of, and list those connotations. So as I've said, you could list the devil, blood, evil. They could be your connotations, depending on the context of your text. Following this, you're then going to put, this means that, this emphasises that, this something that. So, this means that. And then you're just going to explain this. So, explain everything that you've just basically said. So, quote, connotations, this means that, that's how you do word choice. Another question type is sentence structure. So what sentence structure means is the exact same or pretty similar to word choice, but you're explaining how the sentence is structured. So you could have, if we actually go and we'll have a look at the text here that we've been given, the Taylor Swift one, we'll find an example between lines 8 to 12. So between lines 8 to 12 is in here. So between these lines in here, this paragraph, we need to find some sort of sentence structure. First one that's popping out to me is this one right here. I had said everything already, every character, every name, every feeling, every possible sentence and storyline. So I'm going to write that all out to save us the time, but let's see what it said. Let's say everything already, and then it goes boom, 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 oh, boom, boom, boom. Obviously, in your exam, you're writing out everything that you see. That's the point of a quote. For the sake of speed, we're not going to do that just now. Anyways, you've quoted that sentence structure. The sentence structure in here, example of sentence structure in here, is a list. So you can see the list right there. You've got this, you've got that, you've got that. That's a list. Now we're going to show the effect that that has on the question. So the question that we've got here is how the writer makes it clear that writing can be difficult. So that's fine. We've got a list, so we already know what it's going to be. We know that it's going to be showing the extent of rewording the question. So if the question is how the writer makes it clear that writing can be difficult, he's got a list describing every single factor that makes it difficult. So this is hard, this is hard, this is hard, this is hard, showing the extent of which, or the extent of the difficulty he finds writing to be. So again, all I'm trying to say is we're explaining the impact that it has in the question. So this shows that, this emphasises that, this means that, blah, 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 blah. Could be, if it's a list, the extent of which, or blah, 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 blah. Anyways, link the question. That's you. Sentence structure. Okay, a tone question. So what we do with a tone question is it's similar to word choice and sentence structure again. We're going to quote the tone. So what quoting the tone means is if something was said in a way that has a tone. So quoting tone is as simple as you're saying something that could be perceived to have a certain tone. So if I go up, look at what she's wearing. Oh, look at that. It's almost like a disgust. It's almost like, oh, stay away from that. That's what tone is. So you would just quote as normal. You'd quote it what you've said. So the example is, look at what she is wearing. ... Whatever. That's just a silly one. But you get the idea. We're quoting the tone. The tone of that, as I've said, is it's almost like a disgust. You're looking at what somebody's wearing, they go, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's the tone you've got there. Now, what impact does this then have in the question? So this shows that, this means that. Again, you can see the pattern. We're linking to the question, you can see the pattern. We're explaining what that quote has to do with disgust in the first place, but also what it has to do with the question and the impact that it has on us as the readers. Imagery can be three things. So again, it's following similar suit to the previous ones that we've done with a slight difference. So with a simile, of course, we always start with quoting, but I'm going to leave the quote for now. I want to skip to the second part first. So we can get imagery in three things. So we can get a metaphor, personification, can't type today, and a simile as well. So we've got metaphor, personification and a simile. If you don't know what these are, I'm going to explain. So a metaphor is something that it's used to explain a situation, and it's not necessarily true. So an example of a metaphor would be that amazed her so much it blew her socks off. So, you know, you might wowed her quite a lot, but her socks are still intact. You know what I mean? They're still going to be, getting worn. They're not going to get blown off. It's just showing the extent of how amazed she is. That's what a metaphor is. Personification is comparing a trait that a person might have to something that's not real, like an inanimate object, essentially. So, for example, the wind howled. Wolves howl. You know what I mean? The wind's not howling, but the noise almost sounds like a wolf. That's personification. Simile is using the words like or as. So, he was as fast as a cheetah. He's pretty quick, but he's not that quick. It's just showing how fast he actually is. So, using the example I've just said, he's as fast as a cheetah. He is as fast. So, he is as fast as a cheetah. That's your simile there. Right, so that's what we'll go with. Rather than going, this shows that, this means that, blah, blah, blah. We're doing something slightly different. We're using so, just as, and so too. So, just as a cheetah is very quick. Again, keeping it basic so we can fly right through it. So too is the man. That's you. This means that the man is very quick, almost as quick as a cheetah. Obviously, this is written pretty poor. It's written pretty poor, but for the sake of speed, it's just a wee silly one. Just as, so too, and this means that. So it's almost comparing this to that. How do they impact each other? That's the point of imagery. The last question type that we're going to get is a link question. So the point of a link question is you're linking back, linking forward. So I'm going to use the example that we've been given here in the Taylor Swift one. So look at lines 13. So it'll be this one in here. So it's always going to show you where you're looking for. So hopefully you're going to be picking up marks for quoting the right things. But what we're doing with a link question is, well, taking what's been said in a sentence, linking it back, taking what's also been said in this sentence and linking it forward. So in this sentence, which part of this sentence links to the previous part? This is where you would then go and obviously read the text. For the sake of this, we can figure it out pretty quickly without reading the text. So I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I didn't think I was getting anywhere. See, before when I was doing this and I was doing that, I didn't think I was getting anywhere. That's quite obviously talking about past tense. See, back then I didn't feel like I was. So we're going to quote that, and that's obviously linking to everything said up here. But then came Taylor. Then came Taylor Swift. Totally changed my outlook on things. That's obviously going forward. Then came Taylor. So that's then talking about the next part of the text there. So how we're going to do this is we're going to link back and explain how that impacts the previous part of the paragraph, and do the same but linking forward to the next part. So I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. So that was your first part. This links back, blah blah blah. So it's showing how I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere, links back. So we're going to read that part and realise, what is he trying to say? We obviously know he's going to be quite critical of himself. You know, he doesn't feel like he's doing the right things, blah blah blah. So you could be saying this links back to a previous part in the text where he's not as confident in his ability, he's not blah blah blah. And expand that. The next part is how that links forward. So then came Taylor. How does that link forward in the text? So obviously, again, we've not read it, but if you read it, we assume that he's going to go and say this links forward, showing the impact of Taylor Swift on the guy. So he, you know, before he was quite critical, but now being introduced to Taylor Swift and her style of writing and blah blah blah, it's totally changed his outlook, blah blah blah. It's obviously a positive. So that's what we're going to try and say, essentially. So that's a link question. You might be looking at, if anybody, by the way, is wanting to screenshot this, go ahead and screenshot this. However, you might have looked at this paper and gone, by the way, mate, at parts it says use one example of language. You've not used a language, question type. What a language question means is we can use any one of these. Any one of these is to do with language. You can't use a link question, you can't use an own words question, but any of these, that's what is to do with a language question. Personally, I find word choice is the easiest. That's me. But you might find a pretty nice simile. You could use imagery. You might find a clear example of tone. Use tone and so on. But I always try and figure out a way to use word choice. I find that easiest. As I say every video, we've only scratched the surface today. There's so much more to it. I could speak for hours upon hours about everything that we've spoken about today. We've only scratched the surface. So if you really want to smash it, if you really want to kind of know the ins and outs of everything that we've spoken about, get in touch. Go and book your slot on www.jadamshooter.com. Go and have a look. I'll put a link in the description. The link's on the Instagram and TikTok bio. Go and have a look. Go and get yourself booked in. We've only scratched the surface today. There's so much more. But yeah, nice one. Wish you all the best with the exam.